Hello algebra students, this is Mrs. Shomri and I'm here again with you today with another lesson. These are actually notes on box plots and quartiles. Okay, so if you're joining me today, we're going to just review a little bit of what we did yesterday so that you'll be a little bit better off doing some of the problems on the worksheet. Now, if you are not able to print out the worksheet that I sent out on PDFs, okay, then what I'd like you to do is take a look at Castle Learning. Some of those questions are exactly the same, and then there's the same number of questions as well. Okay, so whether you do them on Castle Learning, or whether you do them on PDF, or whether you do them both, that's fine. Okay, you do what you can do in this situation, and we'll see how we do on that quiz. Okay, hopefully everything will prepare you to do well on that quiz. So we're going to talk about a box plot today, and this is a little review of what we did yesterday. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is explain to you what a box plot is. Okay, so here is my box plot. I drew one already. Now, in a box plot, basically we have a box, okay, with a line down the middle, and these two ends, which we call whiskers. Okay, it used to be called a box and whisker plot. And underneath is a scale or a number line. Mine goes from 0 over here on the left to 100. So I'm going to assume that these might be test scores of one of my most recent test or quiz grades. Okay. But we're just really going to review the vocabulary with this. Okay, so if you take a moment, I would like you to pause the video and sketch this box plot so that you can do the problem with me. So pause here. And now we're ready to begin. Now, one of the things that we discussed yesterday was this thing over here called the 5-number summary. Okay, and there are 5 numbers that we can tell from our box plot, but today we're going to talk about a little bit more than that. So we've got a minimum value, which is our lowest score. So if these are indeed test grades, this is the person or people or whatever the littlest score was on that particular test or quiz. The first quartile divides our data into 25%. Median is the middle. Third quartile will represent 75% of our data, and then the maximum is the highest number. And if we look over here, we can see that that person got 100. Okay, so let's label our 5-number summary on our box and whisker plot, and then I'm going to take a moment to expand our vocabulary a little bit and talk about what this chart does and does not do. Okay, so whatever number is over here on the left, this would be our minimum. Our minimum value. Okay, and if I look down from here, it looks like this person got a 35 on this quiz. Okay, so the lowest score on this quiz was a 35, which means that I need to go back and help some people get those scores a little bit higher. Okay, but the good news to that is that I don't have anybody down here at 0, 5, 10, 15, or any of these other lower scores. Traveling along my box plot, I come to this first or the left side of my box, and this is what we call the first quartile. It's also known as the lower quartile. And it's also known as the 25th percentile. Okay, that means that 25% of my data is between 35 and 65. Only 25% of my students did not pass this quiz or this test, okay, which is not very good, but that means that 75% of your classmates did, if this were a real quiz or a test. Okay, in the middle, we have this thing called the median. Okay, so that was our first quartile. This middle box, first quartile goes down 65. Okay, so this one is the median. And we know that our median is in the middle. Okay, so it means that this is exactly smack in the middle, which means that this is our 50 percentile or a 50% break. So if I go down from here, that means that 75 is our median. That means that half of the class did lower than 75 and half of the class did better than 75. Okay, so looking at this statistically, I can say that half of my class did better than 75% on the test. Okay, well, that's not too bad. It means that half of my class is passing with a grade better than 75. Okay, my third part of the box right here is my third quartile. Also known as my upper quartile. So that means that 85, a score of 85%, represents my upper quartile. Okay, and now think about this. If this is 25% and this is 50%, can you guess what this one might be? Think about quarters in your pocket. 25 cents, 50 cents. This is my 75th percentile, or 75%. That means 75% of my students did 85 on the test or quiz or below. Okay, so 75% of my students got an 85 or lower. That means this top part right here, 25% of my students did better than 85%. Okay, which we consider as mastery. Okay, so what do we have so far? Our minimum is over here on the left. Our first quartile, lower quartile, 25% of my data mark is right here at the left of my box. The middle of my box represents my median, or 50%. And my third quartile, upper quartile, or 75% mark is right here at 85. Okay, now this last line represents my maximum. So in yesterday's lesson, we learned how to create a box plot, okay? And today we're kind of just reviewing what it is that we learned. Okay, so that's that. Okay, that's important to realize what is each part of our box plot. I have two more things that I want to share with you. Okay, and I want you to realize that from 25% to 50%, this represents 25% of your data. Okay, and from 50% to 75% represents 25% of your data. And remember, that represents your interquartile range. Your interquartile range represents 50% of your data, and that's why that statistical mark is very important. How do we get that? We subtract the third quartile, 85, and we subtract 65. That means we have a 20-point spread of my interquartile range. Okay, if I was doing my regular range, let's do that. That would be your highest value, or 100. Take away your lowest value, or 35, and that means that there's a 65-point spread between the lowest student and the highest student. Okay, so that's what a box plot does. That's how we read a box and whisker plot. Take these notes with you as you answer some of the questions on either the PDF worksheets or on Castle Learning. I just have one more thing I want to discuss with you. Okay, what is not mentioned here? Okay, what can we not tell from a box and whisker plot? Okay, we can tell the minimum, the maximum, 3 quartiles, and the median. We can do a lot of information with the range. What we cannot tell which items appear the most, which we call the mode, and we cannot find the average, and that's called the mean. Two words we're going to discuss tomorrow. Okay, so we cannot tell anything other than quartiles, percentiles, and the median. Okay, but we have a lot of information from that box plot that we can get from that. Okay, so I would like you to have a great day. Answer some of the questions either on the PDF or on Castle Learning, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Have a great night.